Good morning. 3 years ago, most of us typed something into ChatGPT and watched the sentences appear like magic. It felt like Star Trek, like the future had finally arrived. It wrote jokes and wedding toasts. And then it flat out lied to us. That moment mattered, not just because it was funny or frustrating, but because it revealed something fundamental. Intelligence without context is useless, and context is everything in economic development. We treated it like a better Google and always expected it to answer correctly, but that missed the point. It wasn't searching for information, it was synthesizing it. That shift from retrieving to generating is the foundation of everything that I want to talk to you about today. Even after that, some people missed what was happening. In January of 2024, the Site Selectors Guild proudly released a report showing how much better humans were than AI at picking cities for relocation projects. And they were right, if all you ever do is ask a chatbot and take the first answer. But the real revolution isn't about replacing experts with chatbots. It's about equipping experts with new kinds of intelligence. That's where I live. I'm Dane Carlson, the CEO of SiteHunt. I've spent the last few years building AI systems for economic developers across the country. Not theoretical demos, but real tools running every day inside utilities, counties, and EDOs. Today, I want to talk to you about what this shift means for you, for utilities, and the future of economic development. Things are moving fast, and it's hard to keep up. In fact, I worked on this speech last night. But once you see how these systems actually work, you'll realize the future isn't something we're waiting for. It's something we're already building. In 2022, there was just OpenAI's ChatGPT. Today, there are dozens of providers and at least 100 different models. These are just a few of OpenAI's modern ones. At the top, you've got the thinking models. GPT-5 Mini, 5 Nano. These are the ones that plan and reason and can critique their own work. Below that, you have the general purpose models that can handle text and code and documents. Below that, you have the chat models, the ones we talk to every day. Media models that create images, video, and sound are below. And then finally, you have the working models, the ones that automate real-world tasks like coding. But it's not just the models that have changed, it's also their outputs. Not only can we get text like this wedding toast for a couple of economic developers, but we can generate images like these. We can also pull textual insights directly from images. Or we can generate videos with audio like this one. Since 2022, AI has shifted dramatically. Today, they can do deep research, they can plan, they can critique their own work. AI can now read, see, listen, and act. And agents can orchestrate workflows end to end, not just respond to prompts. And most importantly, while all of this has been going on, costs have dropped dramatically, up to 90% in many cases. And many models can be run for free locally. But if you only use ChatGPT, you're missing 99% of what's possible. ChatGPT isn't the power, it's just the interface. It's a friendly way to talk to the real engine underneath, the model. And the real power of AI isn't in chatting with it, it's in building with it. That's where APIs, agents, and custom workflows come in, where AI stops being a conversational partner and becomes an infrastructure layer that you can build on. For those of you non-nerds in the audience, APIs are like a waiter in a restaurant. You place a precise order, it heads into the kitchen full of specialized models and brings you back exactly what you asked for every time. That's what an API does. You tell it what you want, it calls the right model, and it delivers the result consistently and at scale. Once you understand that, you're no longer limited to typing a question and hoping for the right answer. You're designing a system that gives you the right answer every time. You can also chain models together, even from different providers. You can pick the right models for the right jobs. You can use OpenAI for reasoning, Gemini for retrieval, and Anthropic for structured writing. You can use GPT 4.1 for text extraction, GPT 5 for thinking, or GPT 5 Nano for simple questions like, is there a power line in this Google Street View image? And if so, is it three-phase? Different jobs, different models, one workflow. You can design systems that choose the right model for the job, feed it the exact data you care about, and give it structured instructions and logic. Define its output, trigger real actions. It's the difference between staying in a hotel and building your own home. One is limited and the other is fully yours, designed around you. And the best part, what you do in your own home is private. When you build with APIs, your data stays yours. The major AI licenses explicitly prohibit training on your private data. Once you start thinking this way, you realize it's not just about ChatGPT answering questions. It's about building systems that never stop working. It's not a chatbot. It's a custom intelligence engine. This is the mental shift that we need. AI isn't a tool to talk to. It's infrastructure to build on. Start small, learn fast, and expand from there. It's not as hard as you might think. It's not as hard as you might think. When I started building SiteHunt in 2023, everything was hand-coded. Every feature was a brittle tower of logic that I had to build piece by piece by piece. It worked, but it was rigid and slow and very fragile. Every new feature felt like I was stacking more blocks on a Jenga tower. Today, we work differently. We give the system a plan and a sense of the solution and what it should feel like, the vibe, and then AI fills in the gaps. That's what we call a vibe coding. You're no longer writing every line of logic. You're describing intent, constraints, outcomes, and the feel of the solution. The model writes the scaffolding. You refine, direct, and guide. The work has flipped. It used to be 90% code and 10% review. Today, it's more like 10% code and 90% teaching, refining, and orchestrating. That's the shift that AI gives us, from doing to directing. Think of AI as your newest employee. He's eager, but he never sleeps, and he never forgets. He needs tons of guidance and correction, but once he understands the vibe you're going for, he scales instantly. From 1 to 1,000, no extra payroll, no meetings, no new hires. And unlike a human employee, he doesn't forget. Everything he learns becomes part of your institutional memory. Each new project builds on everything that came before. Here's what vibe-coded orchestration looks like in the real world. Maybe it's a permit watcher that monitors new industrial permits and emails the right engineer within minutes. Maybe it's a load forecaster that reads historical service requests and new permits to predict substation upgrades needed in the next 12 to 24 months. Maybe it's a stakeholder summarizer that reads your internal project notes and sends monthly summaries to leadership. Or maybe a grid pulse, a living, breathing map of your entire service territory. Or my favorite example, the what-if sandbox. Drag a virtual substation, rail spur, or water main onto the map and watch the heat map morph in real time to show how many more projects become viable instantly. Every one of these could be your new employee doing focused work, and all of them can run side by side without anyone lifting a finger. Now let's make this real. Here's how SiteHunt's team of AI employees analyzes an actual site. Earlier this year, I ran a test. My summer intern had a real estate flyer. SiteHunt had nothing but an address. The AI started by finding the fundamentals: parcel geometry, ownership, and zoning. It identified a 2.5-acre industrial property with a 46,000 square foot building, built in 1970, renovated twice, and still active. Zoning was unrestricted. It had 20-foot clear heights, 14 roll-up doors, 4,000 amp, 480 volt power. And all of this took just 4 minutes. SiteHunt found 206 answers to the intern's 14, and he started with a real estate flyer. The realtor and landowner didn't even have all this data. SiteHunt analyzed soils and slopes and flood data. It found stable clay ground, minimal risk, no wetlands. It mapped key infrastructure like highways and ports, airports, and rail. It identified dual feed power, water, wastewater, and fiber. And then it spread out. It found the demographics, the workforce, the housing numbers, childcare, and education. And all of this took just 4 minutes. And we can do this for all of the sites in a community. At this point, the question becomes not only what's there, but what's possible and how fast can we move? We've all opened ChatGPT and typed, "Tell me about 123 Main Street." That wasn't this. When you do that, it gives us some text, some emojis, and the telltale signs of AI, M dashes. Maybe some generic zoning guesses, a sentence about nearby infrastructure, and a hallucinated fact. This is what we call AI slop. Here's how it works when you build with AI instead. When a system like SiteHunt analyzes the same site, it ingests a mountain of structured and unstructured data: raw text, GIS layers, permits, shapefiles, PDFs, zoning codes, imagery, and more. In fact, for every site, SiteHunt processes more than 1 million tokens. A token is basically a word. A standard book is about 80 to 100,000 words. Kindle romance novels are about 50,000 words. So for each site, SiteHunt processes more than 20 romance novels worth of data. With all that data, it tries to answer hundreds of real site selection questions, like does the site have water, sewer, power, and fiber? And if not, how close are they? What's the zoning? And what does that zoning actually allow? How much expansion potential is there? What about soil and slopes and environmental? What about transportation, infrastructure, and more? And here's the critical part. It doesn't just stop after one pass. It answers what it can, then it asks itself those same questions again, this time using the answers it's already found. That recursive loop, ask, answer, re-ask, is where the intelligence emerges. If we don't know if sewer is available on site, but then we find asbestos cement pipes leading away from the site to a nearby sewage treatment plant, we know 2 things. 1, we probably have municipal sewer, and 2, we have asbestos pipes on the property that we need to deal with. Each new piece of evidence enriches the next round of reasoning. What begins as a scattered, incomplete set of data evolves into structured, actionable site intelligence. Not just what's written down, but what can be logically inferred from what's present. That's the power of the loop. Data plus enrichment equals awesomeness. Or as my kids say, fire. The result isn't a shallow paragraph. It's a deeply contextualized picture of a site, the kind of knowledge that accelerates decisions and reduces risks for everyone involved. Now let's apply that same shift to one of the most time-critical parts of your work, responding to RFIs. You've all seen these ugly 50-question monsters that someone built in Word instead of Excel, the kind that normally send everyone into a week-long scramble. With AI, that process looks very different. We upload the RFI. Within seconds, the system parses it, not just reading words, but understanding intent, and runs that understanding against every site in your inventory. And because we know so much about each site, the land, the buildings, and about your community, all of that goes in there too. We click score, we sort high to low, we pick the highest scoring site, we click submit, and we're done. What once took a week and many emails happens in under 5 minutes. And instead of a binary yes no list, we have a ranked, annotated playbook ready for a prospect conversation. And here's the key: the utilities and the regions that deliver these answers first won't just make the short list, they'll set it. So here's the question: is your organization ready for AI? Here's how to gauge your readiness. Is your data available and machine readable? Does your infrastructure data include units, metadata, and context? Are your sites tied to parcel IDs or coordinates? Are historical permits and service requests accessible? Is tribal knowledge like notes and sales engineer info captured? Are incentives structured and discoverable? Is your CRM and project data accessible via API or export? If you check 4 or fewer boxes every day, economic developers ask me to help them get utility data. You are the linchpin of economic development. Without you, the rest of this doesn't move. Please don't be the bottleneck. I know you'll have to ask for permission. I know you'll have to fight a little, but that's the job. You must be the advocate for AI and economic development data inside your organization. Because if you don't, AI slop will fill the gap. And instead of driving the future, you'll be the bottleneck holding it back. Stop optimizing for Google. Start optimizing for AI. Here's how you do it, one small step at a time. Make one data set machine readable, even if it's just internal. Build one internal agent, a simple script that emails you when a new industrial permit drops. Capture one piece of tribal knowledge. Turn something only Joe knows into a structured field. Schedule one 1-hour experiment a month. Use that time to try a new model, workflow, or tool. All of this leads to just one simple truth. You're sitting on the most valuable data in economic development. Every site decision, every RFI, every shortlist, every investment depends on what you control: power, water, sewer, fiber, and the infrastructure that makes projects possible. But the real opportunity isn't delivering those services. It's delivering the intelligence behind them. When your data is structured, machine readable, and connected, you stop being a box to check in a site selector's process. You become a strategic partner, shaping where the industry goes next. This is the shift that utilities are poised to lead, from provider to partner. You don't have to build everything yourself. You can use hosted tools where they're strong, buy and customize where your data matters, and build from scratch where your edge lives. The future is about transforming data into answers. AI gives us that power, but only if we choose to use it. The choices you make in the next year, how you structure your data, how boldly you embrace AI, will decide which regions adapt and which ones lead. The same technology that once stumbled over trivia is now capable of shaping billion-dollar decisions if we build the intelligence infrastructure to harness it. Thank you.